Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of the Prevention Leaders Podcast. I'm Dave Closson, and today's conversation is one that's close to my heart. I'm joined by my good friend and who I consider a professional question asker, Carla Ritz, the managing director of the Montana Institute. We're diving deep into the power of positive childhood experiences and how they ripple through our lives, our families, and our communities. Now listen, before we jump in, there's still time to register for this year's Montana Summer Institute. Whether you're new to the science of the positive or you've been to Big Sky before, this event fills your cup in a way that's hard to put into words. And the best part, you can join the live stream from wherever you are. Seriously, don't miss it. Head over to montanainstitute.com/MSI to save your spot. All right. Now let's get into this incredible episode with Carla. Whether you're a prevention professional, a parent, or someone passionate about creating safe, nurturing spaces for youth, this one is for you.
Welcome to Prevention Leaders Podcast with Dave Closson, your source for insights into the world of substance misuse prevention. Each episode, Dave brings you the latest strategies, expert discussions, and real-life success stories designed to empower your work and inspire impactful change. Whether you're a prevention professional, community advocate, or simply passionate about making a difference, this podcast will keep you informed and motivated. Get ready to lead with a confidence that drives lasting results. Let's lead the change together.
All right, folks, we're back for another episode of the Prevention Leaders Podcast. And today I'm joined with my friend Carla. Welcome, Carla.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. This is so fun.
I love having conversations with you. I joked when we were recording, before we were recording, you're a professional question asker. And I mean that in that you spark some very intriguing, curious thoughts and help me look at things, consider things, think about things from different angles. And I love it. I love it. And so I'm excited to have a conversation with you on record to share with the world. But could you start with just a high level, just a brief little, hey, who are you and what do you do besides being a professional question asker?
Well, first of all, thank you for that compliment because that is something I want to get better at the rest of my life, right? And when someone asks you a really good question, isn't it the best? Like, makes you think, gets you engaged. I love that. So if I can be a professional question asker and get better at that the rest of my life, I'll be very happy. But right now, I'm not a professional question asker. I am the managing director for the Montana Institute, and I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I have an empty nest. I have a new daughter-in-law as of a few weeks ago. I am the proud owner of a kayak, and just a new purchase, the kayak, in hopes to get out more in nature. I live in and work from my home office in Minnesota. And so land of 10,000 lakes and many opportunities to get on the water. But what do? I am, as the managing director at the Montana Institute, I have the privilege of introducing audiences across the country to the science of the positive and the applications of that science. And none of that came from me. I am honored to get to work with and for Dr. Jeff Linkenbach, who's the founder of the Montana Institute. And he has decades of experience creating these frameworks through praxis and now applying them in all sorts of contexts all across the country and in other countries to help people who are engaged mostly in prevention work of all sorts to be able to focus their attention on uncovering and growing the good things that are right there alongside the things we are most concerned about, and watching as the good grows, watching those risk factors decrease as a byproduct. And I get to see folks just embrace that sort of new or different approach for many of them, and how much energy it gives them and how much it helps them sustain the work going forward. And I just so highly esteem folks who do all this different work in the world. And so to get to equip them and to energize them, to help them be sustainable feels like such a great way to spend 9 to 5 and beyond. And then before this, I came into this space because I hired the Montana Institute. I was the executive director for an organization called First Five for several years in California. So I was involved in early childhood prevention advocacy kind of thing with young children and families, and have about 18 years of experience really in that government agency, nonprofit world in administrative and executive roles. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
And with the Montana Institute, the Science of the Positive, listeners, if you're not familiar with it, check out the show notes. I'm going to drop some links to the website, and they have a brief online course, a freebie that you can take. But like you said, Carla, it fills your cup. It is, oh my gosh, it brings life to where we feel run out, weighed down, bogged down, and stuck. And one of the highlights of my year every year would be the Summer Institute, in that it is just that. It's a chance to connect, to feel supported, to feel re-energized. And yeah, it is, like, I'm just scatterbrained right now because it's hard to put into words the transformational experience, the energy that is in that room. How would you describe, I'm going to make you do the hard work. How would you describe what is a Summer Institute?
Yeah, the Montana Summer Institute. First of all, Dave, you are a big part of the energy in that room. Dave, you've been with us, is this 3 years? This will be your third or fourth year?
I don't do math.
And who needs those numbers?
Right?
No, but everyone who is a part of it feels the same way you do about it. And we bring that energy with us, that expectant energy every summer in Big Sky, Montana, at the resort there. We all stay in the same room, which is a little different from a lot of conferences, right? You have usually tracks and breakout sessions and all of that, but we all sort of just stick together for 3.5 days together with the same speakers, all of us doing the same workshops together. And we work through spirit, science, action, return throughout the week, this cycle of transformation. That's sort of how everything is organized. And it just, because it is so intentional, and it does follow the frameworks, Dr. Linkenbach's frameworks, you just get the benefit of experiencing the frameworks while you're learning about them. It's embedded. So the energy is high, and it's incredibly motivating to be around so many people who have chosen this path forward, because it's a very paradoxical path to choose to grow the good as this primary act of resistance against the things you really want to see change in the world, right? But you're intentionally shifting your focus in this way, and to be in a room full of people like that, it feels risky, right? When you are so concerned about the things we're trying to prevent, and to say, you know what, there's so much power in the other side of that coin. What if? And you get in a room with a whole bunch of other what if people. It's pretty cool. And then spend a whole week in beautiful Big Sky, Montana, or online, even in the chat, and interacting with people from across the country and out of the country who are also what if people. So yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So listeners, I will see you there this summer and or next summer and every summer to come. Okay, enough of the little promo clip here, but it's such a big part of who you are and the positivity that you bring to this world. But for today, I would love, and this is just selfish, I'm a parent of an almost 2-year-old who's learning the whole autonomy, and I can say no to things. And I kind of half-hearted, half-serious joke that the main reason I'm keeping this podcast going is so I can get free parenting advice. So I would love to talk about positive childhood experiences and sort of the ripple effects, the impacts. And it seems like a no-brainer, but there's data, there's research, there's a whole lot of science to it that I don't know. What do you think about that for a topic?
I love it. It's the whole reason I work for the Montana Institute. It's why I came to them. I hired the Institute when I was in that role at First Five doing early childhood advocacy because we're focused on ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. In my community, we had an ACEs coalition. And our whole goal was to prevent, childhood adversity, toxic stress, abuse, neglect, all of the things. And we weren't seeing the outcomes we wanted. And we were increasingly just drugged down by the negative data in that community that I was serving. And we had to keep talking about it because we had to keep writing grants to get more money. And the only way we got more money was by talking about how bad things are. And so I just kept thinking there's got to be more here. There's got to be more. There's got to be a different way because we're not getting what we want out of this. And we're so well-intentioned as a coalition. So I started looking for what am I missing? What else is out there? And so positive childhood experiences came on the scene. It came to my attention in about 2018, 2019, right around there, pre-COVID. Seems like a lifetime ago, but not that long ago. And it came in response to exactly what I'm talking about. We had ACEs science. We knew that adversity in childhood, because of the work of Doctors Onda and Folletti in San Diego through the Kaiser Permanente CDC study, we knew without a doubt that what happens in childhood doesn't stay in childhood, and that we're far more likely when we go through some really difficult adversities as children to have negative health outcomes and behavioral outcomes as adults, that these things sort of linger in our stress response system. And so we knew that, and we were very motivated by that to keep those things from happening. And I did not know it at the time, but Dr. Jeff Linkenbach at the Montana Institute and Dr. Robert Segi at Tufts University Medical Center as a pediatrician, along with Christina Bethel at Johns Hopkins University. So these are not inconsequential folks. They were partnering with the CDC. They were partnering with folks like the Casey Family Foundation and Prevent Child Abuse America to ask a new question. So we've been asking all sorts of questions about the problem of child abuse and the problem of toxic stress in childhood. And the more different questions we asked about those problems, the more we understood the problem and the bigger it became. And we came up with things like being trauma informed. And, we came up with actions based on that science. And that was what I'd been living in. But I needed some new actions, I knew. And so I needed new science. And the science that Dr. Segi and Dr. Linkenbach really started and got off the ground was around the other side of the coin. So if adversity has long-lasting impacts on us, what about the opposite of adversity? What about the positive? We just call it the positive. What if the positive had lasting impacts too? So we had all that, all the data from the ACEs project, tens of thousands of people. We needed thousands of people worth of data where we could ask them both ACEs questions and questions about some of the good things that happened when they were kids, and then look at those health outcomes and see if it made a difference, the number of positive childhood experiences. So that's kind of how it began, was just a new question based on the positive as opposed to a problem-centered approach. And what they came back with in that initial study, which they did in Wisconsin with the Wisconsin Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System data, which was over 6,000 Wisconsin adults. And they asked them about 7 different positive childhood experiences. Things like, did you enjoy participating in community traditions as a kid, from birth to 18? Did you enjoy this? Did you have at least 2 non-parent adults who took a genuine interest in you? Did you have an adult in your home that you felt safe with? Did you have friends who made you feel like you supported you in school? Did you feel like you could talk to your family about your feelings? So some of these are just like core, simple questions. And they ask those right alongside all the questions about all the hard things. So they asked about abuse and neglect of various kinds, whether you experience those in the home as well. They asked things about whether there was a divorce in your home, whether there was untreated mental illness, or whether you witnessed violence in your home, these sorts of things. And then they took all that data and they looked at those health outcomes. And what they found at the time, they were comparing mental health outcomes. So they were looking at whether people had depression or poor mental health, whether they were reporting those things. I have depression, or I feel like I have poor mental health as an adult. And what they found was that not only were you less likely to have depression or poor mental health as an adult, if you had those positive, the more of those positive childhood experiences you had. But they also found that it didn't matter how many ACEs you had. The positive childhood experiences actually buffered the ACEs. And so even if you had all 10 of the adversities in childhood, if you also had these positive childhood experiences, your risk was greatly reduced, like 72% lower odds of having depression or poor mental health as an adult who had 10 ACEs and also had high positive childhood experiences, as opposed to not having those positive experiences. So it just flipped the lens on everything. Like it told the rest of the story. And I had been waiting to hear it, didn't even know what I was looking for. But as soon as I heard it, I was like, that's what I've been looking for. What's the rest of the story? Because there has to be more. So, yeah.
And it all started with asking different questions.
Yes.
Questions are powerful. That might unintentionally be a big theme of our conversation today, but hey, you never know.
Yeah.
You gave some examples of positive childhood experience, and I want to kind of, I guess, dig into the definition a little bit, like answering what is considered a positive childhood experience, because I imagine folks may think, oh, we're going to Disney World or big to-dos. But in reality, my hypothesis is that they can be small, consistent moments and little things, not the big grand gestures. But yes, what are considered positive childhood experiences?
Great question. Yes. So honestly, I will say, as someone who is not one of the people doing this research, as someone who is learning from this research and digging into it every single week, because new things are being published every month in droves. There are hundreds now of peer-reviewed articles about the impacts of positive childhood experiences. So as someone who just reads up on all that, I'm not actually doing the research, I can tell you that I would say, as a reader, as a learner, I don't think we're converging yet on exactly the agreed upon definition. I will say it's what you would, what we're looking at right now is what you would expect us to be looking at. So the positive childhood experiences scale, there's several different scales that are being used. That's one of them. And that's the one I was referring to, feeling able to talk to your family about feelings, feeling your family stood by you during difficult times, enjoying participating in community traditions, feeling safe and protected by an adult in your home, having at least 2 non-parent adults who took a genuine interest in you, feeling supported by your friends, and feeling a sense of belonging in high school. That was what the first research was published on. And those things came out of a culturally relevant study in Nova Scotia. Dr. Michael Unger, who's done work all over the world. These are questions that came out of his resilience measure, children and youth resilience measure. So they were well validated before they were used in this initial study. There's also a scale called the Benevolent Childhood Experiences Scale, where they get at a few other things. They look at, they have questions like, did you have opportunities to have a good time? Did you have beliefs that gave you comfort as a child? Did you like yourself or feel comfortable with yourself? So they look at some more internal things and some things that kids have a little more control over. They also ask things a little bit differently, like, did you have at least one good friend? Did you have at least one teacher who cared about you? Really, when you boil it all down, we're looking at safe, stable, nurturing relationships and environments that support the kinds of things that are in this benevolent childhood experiences scale. Like the more safe you feel, the more stable you feel, the more nurtured you feel, the more you can look within in the ways that are described there. So at the core of it all, I would say what the things that they're measuring are really about the relationships, the quality of the relationships you have as a child, and the environments that you're surrounded by. So that's at the heart of it. It's not the new tennis shoes or the trip to Disneyland. That's a positive childhood experience, right? It's not that you got exactly what you wanted for your 5th birthday. It's that you had people there who pointed to your potential, who made you feel worthy, and that allowed you to develop in a way that was curious and thoughtful and expansive instead of fearful and closed down and needing to protect yourself, right? You knew you had people who could protect you, so you were living a more expansive, thoughtful, able to be engaging creatively with the world because you had relationships and environments that made you feel that way.
Yeah, and I was just having a conversation with another colleague about prevention and parenting as it relates to alcohol, specifically for that conversation, but that it really boiled down to parenting from a place of connection, not coercion or obedience. And it's that connection is what's going to really be the biggest protective factor, cross-cutting any substance or high-risk behavior. And that connection is built in small moments, but all around safety, stability, nurturing, trust, all those things you just listed.
Yeah. And so much of that has to do, it's interesting. People tend to think that one of the most interesting in that group of 7 is that idea of community traditions. Like, what does that have to do with anything? What, you had like a Christmas tree lighting in the town square? You know, what you had? Like,
As somebody watching Hallmark movies or Lifetime movies.
Right? No, but that's one that sometimes people can feel like, wait a minute, that one doesn't quite feel like the other one. And yet I'll ask you, what was your favorite, like, what's a community tradition that you either now enjoy or did enjoy as a child?
4th of July, fireworks.
Yeah.
Fireworks. Okay. Yeah.
And what made that special?
We would go, first we got to stay up late. So that was special, but we always did it as a family. And we had neighbors that got together and we just kind of hosted it and watched the fireworks and the music and the camaraderie, I guess I'll call it.
Yeah. Yeah. So this idea of safe, stable, nurturing relationships and environments, they're every year on one day of the year. I don't know the rest of your childhood. You probably had an awesome childhood. You might have had some struggles. You know what I mean? But what you just described was that one day a year, you knew that was what was going to happen. You were going to get to stay up late. You were going to be all together with your family. The neighbors would come together, like stable, safe, nurturing, like those sorts of regular activities that we create in our communities. I think they're worth so much more. We don't give them credit for what they actually do for us as people. And I think COVID was such a huge indicator of that. All of our traditions, all of our community traditions went on hold for at least a year, sometimes 2, 3, 4 years, right? The parades didn't happen. The fireworks didn't happen. The graduation ceremonies didn't happen. And we were mad.
Yeah.
Right? Like people got angry. We got viscerally upset. And many people fought back, right? Like, wait a minute, what do you mean we can't have homecoming? What do you mean we can't have, right? These are important to us because they happen every year and we always do it. And we know in our heart it's good for us, right? That there's something really special about that. But we didn't know how powerful it was until it was taken away. And I think that's what each of these positive childhood experiences, you don't have to be a genius to know those things are good for kids. But now that we have the huge amount of science, not just around mental health outcomes in adulthood, but around mental, physical, behavioral health outcomes throughout the lifespan because of these simple things that make kids feel safe, stable, and nurtured. It's not just medicinal, it's preventative. And so I think that having the science really gives credence to us spending the time, money, energy, in investing and making sure kids in our neighborhoods and our communities have these things, because it's incredibly powerful.
And I kind of think too, community events, as I noodle on them more, I'm connecting them to like culture and how they can create that sense of belonging to something even bigger than just your family unit, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
Thinking like college or sports teams that have their big traditions and how it creates that sense of belonging and identity to whatever that university is. And yeah, the many ripples.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a lot of data, and we know the power of the positive when it comes to childhood experiences and how they can actually be simple, small things. It's not the new shoes or trips to Disney World. How can we as prevention professionals use this knowledge, this data? What do we do? How can we operationalize it, implement it? How can we use it to guide what we do? What's next?
Yeah. Well, I would say, we look at everything at the Montana Institute through the lens of the science of the positive framework. And so that includes core principles, and it includes the cycle of transformation, and it's all focused on uncovering and growing what's good. So as prevention professionals, what we encourage folks to do is, first of all, embrace that spirit, because it's not necessarily the loudest voice in the room when you talk about prevention. A lot of times you might hear the spirit of fear coming through, fear of what might happen to kids if we don't, make sure they understand all of the consequences of their actions, fear of, if people realized how bad things were, they would do more, just that intensity, which is incredibly motivating. But if there is this desire to also prevent the things we don't want to see in the world, not just so there's a void of those things, but that void is filled with these beautiful medicinal preventative things, then starting with that spirit and giving into that and giving credence to it as a very valuable step and part of your prevention strategy portfolio. First of all, lean into that. Like, give yourself permission. I would say that this is legit, it's evidence-based, and it is powerful and has a lot of science behind it. So give into that spirit. And then moving from spirit into science, learn the science. There is so much that you can share with your community to help encourage. Everyone wants more engagement, right? Everyone wants more people on their coalition. Everyone wants more people to show up for kids and to do more mentoring, more coaching, more all the good things. But if we don't have the compelling stories and the compelling science to back them up, helping people understand why they need to and why it will make a difference. So engage with the science, embrace the spirit of wanting to uncover and grow what's good because it's evidence-based, and then engage with the science. So learn everything you can about the actual ripple effects of increasing positive experiences, and then move into action. So I would say, we all just want to jump into action. Like, okay, how do we get more of these? How do we, but there is no substitute for grounding yourself in the science of this work and the spirit of the work. Moving to action, you will be so much better equipped to do so once you have done the first two things of engaging with spirit and the science. But simple, low-hanging fruit action-wise, I've seen communities do things like, many communities will have like a calendar of events, right? Family-friendly, things that are positive in the community to do. And so they'll overlay positive experiences for children on top of that. So if you are a community or you on your webpage, your coalition has a calendar of events or tries to keep people updated, what are the positive childhood experiences that are going to be present at these events? You could even put it in your form as people are sort of upload their things they want to have included on your calendar. Ask them, will this be a tradition? Will this be part of a community tradition? Will there be opportunities for kids to engage with adults in meaningful ways? Will kids have a chance to make a new friend? Will there, you know what I mean? Just sort of like piece through those things. So start to call them out when you see them and call people into those things too. The more we name them, the better. And it's also about just layering these things on top of what you're already doing. So many prevention folks are doing such great work already And if we go into it with a different level of intentionality, knowing that I could do this tabling event and share a lot of information with whoever comes to the park or whoever comes to this event, this health fair. I have so much good information I could share with them. What if I could also increase positive childhood experiences? What would that look like? So I've seen a lot more folks working at tabling events where they are providing slow activities. So not just like the quickie little,
here, take this, go, go.
No, but they like actually, kids sit down and they do a small craft that takes a little bit of time, and it forces a slowdown and allows some space for conversation, and it allows people to really lift up and engage the family in this. Because part of it, right, is 4 of those positive childhood experiences in the 7 PCE scale, 4 of those were community-based. 3 of them were in the family. So finding the space and the time to engage with folks to let them know what those things are and how to do them. Working with schools, one of the folks we work with here in Minnesota, she went to bat with her school board as part of her coalition because they were starting to charge kids to go to athletic events. And they'd always been free in the past, but they needed more revenue. They need, new facilities, everything costs more. And so kids were having to pay a few bucks to get into the games. And so less kids were going to the games, right? And so she went to that and she taught the school board about what are positive childhood experiences. And part of that is belonging at school. And part of belonging is community traditions. And she's like, we want our kids to say, we always go to the games. We always show up at this. We always do that. It's what we do because we are, insert your mascot here, right? We are Thunderbirds. We are prairie chickens. We are banana slugs. We always do this. We show up for each other, right? But if we're putting a paywall in front of them, we're preventing a positive childhood experience. These are just little things. Like, people really are thinking through this a lot, and it makes every community is going to find different solutions based on what's happening there. But yeah,
I like how you articulated it could be removing a simple barrier.
Yeah.
Instead of adding a whole new program or offering, just remove a barrier, make it more accessible.
Yeah.
Naming it, what's on the calendar. Yeah. Slowing down. When you're talking about the slower, the crafts tabling, the thought popped in my head, maybe this is more around positive adult experiences, but the importance of reflection as it relates to positive childhood or adult experiences. Is there any talk or logic behind, creating space for that also to wire it in our brains that, yeah, it was a positive experience or that did feel good?
Well, a huge part of just the idea behind what we consider a positive experience has to do, and how much it really impacts us. And you're right, as adults, is really a lot to do with savoring, this idea of savoring, right? And you can savor something, and it ties perfectly into childhood experiences. But a lot of times, kids aren't the most reflective on the planet, right? Like, they haven't matured to the point where they're that kind of creature yet. And so we help them along with that. And so you can savor something beforehand, in the moment, and after. And all 3 are important, and they all amplify the effects of the experiences that we have. So look, the whole idea of a tradition, you're looking forward to it, right? You're savoring it in advance based on what's happened in the past and what you're hoping will happen next. And there's that really beautiful positive benefit you're getting as you look forward into the future of what's good and hopeful and is coming for you. And then, of course, being very present in the moment and savoring that moment while you're in it and taking it all in and helping our kids learn to do that. It's really not something that comes naturally to them in the moment. They're much better at looking forward to things than they, yeah.
Yes.
Is it Christmas tomorrow? Is it Christmas the day after that? Like, when is it? Like, I'm ready for it. When's my birthday again? Is it next week? When is
tomorrow.
Next week? Tomorrow? Yeah.
Yeah.
But then also looking back, remembering things together with kids, all of that, just sort of that, what you're calling reflection and I'm calling savoring, is really that beautiful way of helping these positive experiences to live on and take up more space in our psyche and really in our, what we learn is in our physical bodies and in our behaviors. Yeah, we look at the world differently and we feel differently in it when we do that.
Fun little Eleanor story. We have learned that negotiating with hey, after nap, we'll go do X, Y, and Z. We'll go to the library in order to get her, to agree to go take a nap. Yeah, that doesn't work because she's so excited about going to the library. She just does not nap. So that whole looking forward to the future, yes.
Yes. Not so much savoring the nap.
Right. Like, oh, so now we have to try different negotiating tactics.
Yeah. Now you have to experiment with, what does it look like to savor nap time? Like, what does that look like?
Yes, I know. Like the pre-nap book reading, the snuggles, and yeah. See, like free parenting advice. That's
right. Always.
That's the sub bullet subtext behind this whole.
Absolutely, the wise man.
Yeah, and I'm just not wise by design, just the way it is.
Well, and you have, since our theme apparently is asking good questions.
Yeah, right.
Being question askers. There's nothing like becoming a parent to make you willing to ask for help.
Right.
Right? Or advice. Like, I don't know that there's almost nothing like it in the human experience to force you into that place of humility, to being willing to ask new questions and ask questions and for help in particular. It's so humbling.
Yes. And so I'm curious how your worlds of positive childhood experiences and positive community norms have come together at all.
Yeah, I call them the dynamic duo.
Ooh, cue the sound effects.
Yeah, I do actually. And at the Montana Summer Institute this year, I'm doing a keynote on the dynamic duo of positive childhood experiences and positive community norms.
I did not know that when I asked the question. Audience, I have not seen the agenda. Genuinely curious. But I'll be there on site to see.
Yeah, I'm excited about it because I do see them that way. It wasn't just a clever title. I feel like they make each other better. And the positive community norms approach, of course, is around social norms related to any number of topics. But anytime that the social norm for the positive, healthy behavior is the norm, when the healthy choice actually is the norm, and most people are engaging in that. However, most people think that others are not engaging in it. That's that gap that we talk about, the misperception gap. And we know that that's a huge risk factor for folks. And so when we bring together this positive community norms approach around elevating the positive, healthy norms that really do exist and get folks to look at their communities differently, whether it's their schools or their communities at large, and recognize that folks really are, by and large, choosing not to drink, choosing not to vape, choosing not to use marijuana in our schools, in public places. Like the idea that is actually the norm and that's what's desired. When we start to see our community as a community that values the same things that we value in that way, it's a huge eye opener, and it changes the climate too. So it's such a beautiful example of how an intervention related to prevention can actually change a culture. It's not, you're trying to do one thing and you end up getting like 10 times more in return. And it's the same thing with positive childhood experiences. And so those two combine beautifully because so much of the positive childhood experiences also act as protective factors when it comes to substance use prevention with youth. And they also are promotive factors in mental health, and which just dovetail so beautifully. But we also see folks who are engaged in positive community norms efforts, adding on the emphasis to increase positive childhood experiences at the same time as they're implementing positive community norms messaging, because it's like this beautiful, exponential effect that happens when the focus is on both. And they both, like I said, dovetail so well together. But
growing the good times 10.
Yeah.
synergy, that 2 plus 2 equals 20, not 4.
Exactly.
Oh, I did math.
Well,
You're right. Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. Yes. And for a future conversation, I would love to talk positive adult experiences, because I find it so fascinating personally because of my own healing journey and learning to find peace, but then also joy, and how that can dovetail, and and having fun too. That's something like us as adults, it's like we forget when we become, quote, we get stamped that, okay, you're an adult now. It's like we forget how to have fun, forget how to play. And that, I know you mentioned in the past, there's research out there on that too. So that'll be a teaser for future conversations and or at the Montana Summer Institute, right?
always. Yeah. I mean, I can't talk about positive childhood experiences without talking about positive adult experiences, because there's no line that we jump over, right? We don't like jump over a fence on our 18th birthday and everything behind that fence, right? Like there's no longer applies anymore. We have one life and it's continuous. And the 19th birthday, we're still carrying all the things from the previous 18. And we now have hopefully a little more agency to choose what comes into our lives and the influences as well. And so there has been some research there. And it's incredibly encouraging to see that it's not some magic line at 18 that everything good has to happen to you before that. The things that are good and positive and healing that happen past that, they really, really matter too. And what we need as adults, teaser, not so different from what we needed as kids.
Yes. To be continued.
Yes.
And so to hold us in that space between conversations, what would be final parting words of wisdom or a question you would like to leave our audience with?
Words of wisdom, I would say, it's not so much a word of wisdom as it is just a desire deep in my heart for folks to give credence to what they already know to be beneficial in the world, and to give themselves permission to spend time and energy and money and space to creating safe, stable, nurturing relationships and environments for the youth that are in their lives and the adults. But we're specifically talking about youth. Like, give yourself permission to do this. If you had $1,000 in your bank account that had absolutely no purpose, you had zero needs in the world, and a young person you heard, who you love very much was talking about how, if only I could go to college, I'm $1,000 short, right? So like, you give it to them. Like, you'd immediately, you'd be like, oh, I've got it. It's right here, right? I have the answer to your problem. Like, I have what you need. You would give it to them so freely and so joyfully. And so the more we learn and the more science backs up the reality of these safe, stable, nurturing relationships and environments, and they're worth way more than $1,000. And they're exactly what kids and adults need for physical, mental, behavioral health and well-being. Like, don't hold back. Give them. They're more valuable than you could ever imagine. So I don't know if that's a word of wisdom, but it's just like the desire of my heart that we all would embrace that and give that freely to the people who we are privileged enough to share space with and love. And then a question I would pose is, what are you going to do now? Like, what's next? Right? So you maybe heard something different or heard it a little bit differently. What's one thing that you can do today, tomorrow, this week that would increase positive experience for someone else in your life in a small way?
Those listening on or watching on YouTube or Spotify, drop a comment. What is your one thing? We can be each other's accountability partners. One thing. And with that, I'm not going to add anything else, except I'm going to go to the comments and add my one thing and also say thank you. Thank you very much for taking time to talk all things positive with me today. And I'll see you in Big Sky.
Yeah. See you there.
Thank you for listening to the Prevention Leaders Podcast with Dave Closson. Since prevention is better together, make sure you click the subscribe button and share this and other episodes with a friend. If you have a topic idea or guest suggestion, follow us on social media or email us at info@preventionleaders.com.